It is the argument that has been whispered in the corridors of power for years, but now, in the wake of a life sentence that has shaken the foundations of the nation, it is being shouted from the rooftops by legal experts who see the storm clouds gathering. The headline you saw is not just an opinion. It is a roadmap out of the crisis that threatens to consume the Southeast and potentially the entire country. Barrister Bennett Amadi has come out to declare boldly that Nigeria has a lot to gain by settling the Nnamdi Kanu case politically. And if you look at the economic, security and diplomatic mess we are currently wading through, you might find yourself agreeing that the courtroom is no longer the place where this battle can be won. Welcome to this special deep dive broadcast on this Saturday, November 29th, 2025, where we are going beyond the surface level noise to analyze the heavy statement made by Barrister Bennett Amadi. We are looking at why a political solution is not just a favor to Nnamdi Kanu, but a necessity for the survival of Nigeria's economy and national unity. We are going to break down the billions of naira being lost, the lives being wasted, and the terrifying reality of the Sokoto trap that makes a political settlement the only viable exit strategy for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. To understand why Barrister Amadi's statement is resonating so powerfully right now, we have to look at the deadlock we find ourselves in. On Thursday, November 20th, the Federal High Court sentenced Kanu to life imprisonment. On Friday, November 28th, just yesterday, the Court of Appeal struck out his human rights suit, calling it academic because he had already been moved to Sokoto. Legally, the government feels it has won. They have the conviction. They have the prisoner. But Barrister Amadi is asking a crucial question. At what cost? He argues that while the government might have secured a legal victory, they are staring down the barrel of a political defeat because the incarceration of Kanu has become the fuel that powers the insecurity in the Southeast. The first major gain that Barrister Amadi and other proponents of a political solution point to is economic stability. Let us be honest with ourselves as a family. The Southeast is bleeding. Since the incarceration of Nnamdi Kanu began in earnest, the region has lost an estimated 7 to 10 trillion naira due to the sit-at-home orders and the general climate of fear. We are talking about the commercial heartbeat of the nation, Onitsha, Aba, Newi, being shut down every Monday. Barrister Amadi argues that by settling this case politically and releasing Kanu, the federal government would instantly unlock the economic potential of the region. Imagine a Southeast where goods move freely 24/7, where investors are not afraid of unknown gunmen, and where the internally generated revenue, IGR, flows back into the national coffers. The gain here is not just for the Igbos. It is for the Nigerian economy that is desperate for growth. Then there is the security gain, which is perhaps the most urgent. The government has spent billions of naira deploying the military, the police, and the DSS to the Southeast under various code names like Operation Python Dance and Operation Udoka. Yet, and the violence has not stopped. Barrister Amadi is suggesting that the Kinetic Approach, shooting and bombing, has failed because you cannot shoot an ideology. By keeping Kanu in prison, specifically in Sokoto, where he is seen as a martyr, the government is radicalizing a new generation of youths who feel they have no stake in Nigeria. A political settlement, which would likely involve Kanu calling for a ceasefire in exchange for his freedom, would do more to disarm the Eastern Security Network, ESN, and the splinter groups than 1,000 battalions of soldiers ever could. It is about trading a prisoner for peace. If you are finding this breakdown of the political solution argument insightful, and you want to be part of the community that digs deeper than the headlines, please take a moment right now to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. We are tracking this story from the legal chambers to the political backrooms, and we need you with us as we navigate these turbulent times. We also have to consider the diplomatic gain. Nigeria's image on the international stage has taken a battering. We have seen US President Donald Trump designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern, citing the persecution of Christians and the handling of internal dissent. We have seen the UK government under pressure from its own citizens to intervene for Kanu, who is a British national. Barrister Amadi highlights that continuing to hold Kanu, especially after the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention called for his release, paints Nigeria as a nation that does not respect international human rights norms. Settling the case politically would be a massive PR win for the Tinubu administration. It would show the world that Nigeria is capable of resolving its own internal conflicts through dialogue and African justice, rather than brute force. It would disarm the international critics who are currently using Kanu's incarceration as a stick to beat the Nigerian government. But what does a political settlement actually look like? Barrister Amadi is not suggesting that the government just opens the gates of Sokoto Prison and walks away. He's likely alluding to the kind of arrangement we saw with Asari Dokubo or Sunday Igboho, a conditional release. It could involve Kanu signing an undertaking to renounce violence, to pursue his agitation through purely non-violent means, or even to go into exile. The gain here is that the government gets to control the narrative. They can say they acted out of magnanimity and fatherly love, thereby boosting their approval ratings in the Southeast ahead of the 2027 elections. However, we must also look at the counter-argument that makes this so difficult. The presidency, through aides like Frederick Nwabufo, has warned against romanticizing criminals. They argue that releasing Kanu would set a dangerous precedent. They ask, what about the victims? What about the police officers killed? If we release Kanu politically, are we saying that you can kill and burn, and if you are popular enough, you will get a pardon? This is the dilemma. But Barrister Amadi counters this by pointing to the amnesty granted to Niger Delta militants. Those militants shut down the oil production of the country, yet the government sat down with them, paid them, and reintegrated them because the cost of fighting them was higher than the cost of settling them. The argument is that the Southeast crisis has reached that same tipping point where the cost of justice is higher than the price of peace. Furthermore, there is the issue of the Sokoto trap, which we have discussed on this channel before. By keeping Kanu in Sokoto Prison, right in the middle of the territory terrorized by the new Lakurawa group, the government is taking a massive gamble with his life. If anything happens to him, if there is a jailbreak, an attack, or a health crisis, the resulting chaos would make the current agitation look like a child's play. Barrister Amadi suggests that a political settlement eliminates this risk entirely. It takes the hot potato out of the government's hands. It shifts the burden of maintaining peace back to Kanu and the Southeast leaders. If Kanu is released and violence continues, the blame shifts to him. But as long as he is in prison, every bullet fired in the East is blamed on his incarceration. The involvement of heavyweights like Senator Seriake Dixon and the 44 members of the House of Representatives who wrote to the president supports Barrister Amadi's position. They are all singing from the same hymn sheet. The Constitution gives the president the power of prerogative of mercy, Section 175, for a reason. It is therefore moments exactly like this, where the letter of the law cannot provide the healing that the spirit of the nation needs. They are telling President Tinubu that being a strong man is good, but being a peacemaker writes your name in history books. So as we wrap up this analysis, the question is not whether Nigeria can settle this politically. We know the president has the power. The question is whether the gains Barrister Amadi listed, peace, economy, unity, international respect, are valuable enough to the current administration to swallow their pride and sign the papers. The legal road has ended in a life sentence that has only deepened the anger. The political road is wide open, but it requires courage to walk it. What do you think? Does Nigeria truly have more to gain by freeing Nnamdi Kanu? Or should the government stick to the life sentence to deter others? Is Barrister Amadi right that the benefits outweigh the risks? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.